That's all right. So like this, and I'll take this one with me when I leave. And then I only have a few. And is Mary here, Mary Clayman, that I'm supposed to introduce?
I haven't seen her,
Okay, hopefully.
but I would imagine that. Well, I don't know that. Like I know her to see her. Although I feel like I certainly met her.
I can decide whether I should read it with my glasses or not because I need to have glasses for reading. But far in a distance, I can see perfectly fine. So, but it's. I might put it on. All right. All right. Oh, here's Mary. Good afternoon. I am Anita Odom, one of the team members at the National Office in the role of Senior Director of Chapter Services. On behalf of PCA America and our National Board of Directors, we would like to thank you again for joining us at the 2019 Prevent Child Abuse America National Conference, Moving Upstream in Milwaukee. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's opening plenary with Leslie Crutchfield and Reverend Darrell Armstrong, our board-sponsored opening night reception that followed, and this morning's variety of sessions. We at PCA America are a leaderful organization led by our amazing president and CEO, Dr. Melissa Merrick, guided by an active and committed board of directors, and with all of you on our side as change agents, whether you are an assessment worker, a home visitor, a supervisor, a program manager, trainer, board member, state leader, administrator, funder, researcher, or policymaker, we're truly filled with hope for a better future for all children in America. As Melissa said yesterday, swimming upstream and against the current is not easy, but we're all in this together, and together, anything is possible. I personally have the honor and privilege to work directly with our robust state chapter network. I encourage you to attend their workshops, make connections to learn about their incredible work at the state level, and forge new partnerships and collaborations. In Wisconsin, our state chapter operates under the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin within the Community Services Department. The chapter has a number of statewide prevention efforts in the areas of abusive head trauma, child sexual abuse prevention, home visitation, and adverse childhood experiences. The chapter hosts annual conferences and is very active in state-level advocacy and public awareness efforts. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming on stage our PCA Wisconsin State Chapter Director, Mary Clayman.
Thank you, Anita. I wish I would have heard Anita's speech first because that was mine. So get some cheese, get some beer, thank you, but a little bit more. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you here to Milwaukee on behalf of Prevent Child Abuse Wisconsin. As Anita said, PCAW is a program of Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. So we're a chapter within a large organization. Part of the power that comes from all of the PCA chapters around us is we all look different. And we're all responding to what is important and all of the work that's being done in our state. So please do take the opportunity to meet with PCA chapters and learn about all of that, what we're doing to move upstream. And as she said, we really have a host of programs that we are part of, not only as our chapter, but then as the larger Children's Hospital of Wisconsin system, including home visitation, family resource centers. We work with trauma-informed care, Triple P, and period of purple crying. And our conference, just to talk a little bit more about that, even in that, what we're talking about is multidisciplinary teams. How can those teams come together and work with children and families to make sure that we are providing the best services that we can? The mission of Children's Hospital is to have the healthiest kids in the nation. And we recognize that a big part of realizing that goal is to support families and help assure kids grow up in safe and nurturing environments. Like many of our speakers have stressed, this work only happens because of strong partnerships within our system, within our states, and within our communities. We heard Melissa yesterday talk about how difficult it is to move upstream. But working together, sharing innovative ideas, and keeping the protection of kids and the support of families as our guide, we will make that journey. Again, welcome to Wisconsin, and thank you, PCAA, for putting on this incredible conference. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Strader. I am the National Director of Healthy Families America, and we continue to be so incredibly thrilled with the turnout hear the amazing energy that you are all bringing to this event. I think there are a few people in the room who are connected with HFA perhaps, and I wonder if by applause you could let us know if you're here, those of you who are connected with HFA. Awesome. Thank you. So I have just a couple of additional conference items to mention before we begin with the luncheon program. First, we're going to do a little bit of a repeat of what happened yesterday. So if you've got your phone and you know all about the conference app, the first person who is able to go to the app and comment #MovingUpstreamMilwaukee is going to receive a $20 Starbucks gift card. And we will announce who that is at the end. And you can come up and get your gift card when we conclude. Also, an important note, for those of you who have purchased tickets to the Evicted exhibit, and I am so totally thrilled that we have this first ever opportunity at a PCA conference to do a mobile workshop. We have limited tickets still available, and there's no opportunity to see this exhibit, which just left Washington, D.C., is on its first city tour since leaving D.C., speaking to the housing crisis in America. If you want to purchase a ticket, please go to the registration booth after lunch so that you can do that. And for those who already have a ticket, tomorrow morning, the first session, you will want to make sure that you are at the door that is actually right outside the ballroom, because that's where you'll find a charter bus where we will load up and go together to the exhibit. And we'll return to the very same location, which means you have a front door opportunity to come right into the ballroom for lunch. And those who go to the afternoon session, when you leave lunch, you will be able to go right onto the bus. So do let us know if there is anything that we can do to help you if you are interested in participating. All right. So I have the most distinct pleasure to announce the award recipients for this year's Healthy Families America Outstanding Supervisor and Service Award. We received so many nominations this year. It was truly incredible. I'm going to start with the Supervisor Award. Siobhan Connolly of New Hampshire is here. She wears multiple hats. She is a supervisor. She is also a family resource specialist and program manager. She excels in all three roles and exhibits exemplary skills in the area of supervision. She was also previously a home visitor. Siobhan empowers and inspires the home visitors she supervises. She allows them to develop their own individual style that ultimately fits the needs of the families they serve. Siobhan's supervisor said this about her: "She has taught me a lot about holding space, observing, discerning, and listening. Supervising her has made me a better supervisor. She is well-versed in the parallel process and passionate about her work. She inspired a campaign within the program in which she created a social media presence geared toward families. She redesigned our program brochures to include pictures of program staff, explaining if you want people to let you into their homes, they need to know a little bit about you. It is how they keep their families safe. It's through her own self-awareness, authenticity, hard work, intelligence, and willingness to use data to continually improve things that have actually made not only a strong shift in the program that she works with, but have had ripple effects throughout the entire state. And with that, I welcome Siobhan Connolly.
So I am receiving this award with a very grateful heart on behalf of those who inspire the spirit I bring into my work. Molly taught me perseverance and how to overcome criticism. William quietly shows me the strength in humor, well-placed words, and a lifelong sense of service to humanity. Nancy lived her life in love and served her community tirelessly in so many ways. Leah models respect, advocacy, and self-care as integral components of this work. We all have meaningful people in our lives, and especially for those of us who are in this room, we are meaningful to many others. It is in this way, by being positive influences in our own shared stories, that we collectively transform our communities and move upstream together. I'm thankful for all those others in my life, too numerous to cite, and I thank you, PCA America, for your recognition today.
All right. And now I want to recognize our outstanding HFA direct service providers. So this is all our family resource specialists, our family support specialists. And I want to acknowledge Brandy Samaniego from Arizona. Brandy is I think there are a few people here from Arizona. Brandy is a 6-year Healthy Families veteran, working directly on the border with Mexico, which is her hometown. Brandy knows all too well that there are few services available in her community of approximately 18,000, where 85% of them live below poverty level. Brandy's commitment to families and her commitment to community have compelled her to go above and beyond taking her work and her Healthy Families message of family strengthening and building protective factors, not just into the homes of the families she works with, but into the local prison and the public schools. Brandy also went knocking on the door of the town's mayor, and she succeeded in prompting the mayor to recognize the need for trauma-informed practice, training on trauma-informed practice for all facets of city authorities, including educators, police officers, border patrol agents, and others in service to the public. Brandy reached out to local medical providers and convinced a young pediatrician to shadow her on home visits. Blown away by the strength-based way with which Brandy is able to present parenting education and developmental information in such a relaxed and relationship-based manner, the pediatrician said that what Brandy could accomplish on a weekly home visit went way beyond his own scope of practice, and that joining forces with home visitors made sense in providing more holistic support for families. And as a result, the first 365-day collaborative was formed. This collaboration has melded medical care and home-based social service into a comprehensive package of services to families in the community. Brandy's continuously cheerful and optimistic attitude works magic. She is a mighty champion of positive change and a source of empowerment for families. A very important final note before I invite Brandy to come up. Brandy began her relationship with Healthy Families not as a family support specialist, but as an enrolled Healthy Families participant after the birth of her first child, and she is now a wonderful mother to her and her husband's 3 children. Brandy Samaniego.
Whoa, there's so many of you. Can I do something fun? If you guys look under your chair, you can find, I'm just kidding. So I am so deeply and honored to receive this award today, but I have to say I have so many mentors, and each and every one of you and all of your light that you shine, I am truly, truly the one that is honored to be around you today. I believe we do this work every day in hopes to be the builders of bridges for families to cross into their futures safely between their child and their child's future. We help families become healthier,
We help families and support them to find their own strengths and their own wisdoms, and we learn so much more than we teach. We understand how pasts have an impact on the present and how we move forward to the future. A simple smile and a welcome can change families. It can change our world and connects us all to one another. Healthy Families is my home, and you all are my family too. So thank you so much, and I do have a poem about home visitation that I had written that I would like to share. The Visitor. The friendly, familiar first knock echoing the front door, to the way we enter and sit on the floor. With tape and toys galore, the listening ears, the shared tears. The understands of cancellations through the years, the frustrations, the celebrations, all in a day's work, without hesitation. The rushed paces and flushed faces from working in some hot places, Arizona. And offered, I'm totally fine, how are you? Then safely rushing to your supervisor, phew. A child's laughter, a parent's chapter, experiences shared, strengths bared, all in a day's work of a home visitor. Thank you.
All right. So we have a third acknowledgement that we want to do, and I've got to take a deep breath. Our very own Kate Whitaker is retiring at the end of this month. And Kate has been involved with Healthy Families for a total of 28 years. Kate and I have known each other for many of them. We have had the opportunity to work together in a variety of capacities. I first met Kate in the early 90s and was awestruck from the very first. And then we became a lot closer when we started working together on various committees. We had respective jobs in different states, I in Michigan and she in Arizona, but we participated together on initiatives like the Research Practice Council and our accreditation panel. And then we had the very good fortune to begin working together at the national office in 2003. And there are so many things that I could say about the treasure that is Kate and all that she has meant to Healthy Families America over the years, how much we will miss her. I am so relieved she has agreed that the day after she retires, she will actually start contracting with us. And therefore, I didn't have to bring quite as much tissue up to the podium. And there really aren't enough words to describe how wonderful Kate's contributions have been. We have relied on her for so much. And so, given that we know a picture is worth 1,000 words, we have a short video clip that we'd like to now show.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much
She hates me right now. Okay, so as Kate joins me on stage, we're going to give her a special award, and I will read it. Come on, Kate, before I have to come grab you. So, Kate Whitaker, we're honoring you with love for your 28-year HFA journey. You have changed the lives of thousands, and we are forever grateful.
Okay. Thank you. That belongs to all of you. I mean, the Weeble, really? Oh my goodness. I am just so honored to have spent the last 28 years with you, HFA, and may I also add with one, let me just say that again, I can't even talk. I can do this. I'm so honored to have spent the last 28 years with you and HFA, and 1.5 million years later, maybe I don't even speak. Oh my goodness, I'm so honored to have spent the last 28 years with you and HFA, and 1.5 million miles later, it still seems like yesterday. I got it out. There is really something tremendously special about HFA, don't you think? And if I were to try to name it, I would call it passion. HFA has also been like a family to me. And while I am saddened to leave, I know I have so much to look forward to, including spending some time with my husband, who surprised me in my room last night and almost got a ballpoint pen in the heart. What an amazing privilege it has been to meet you and learn from you, and for accompanying me on this very, very rich journey. Know always that HFA will be with me, as it has actually been a part of me. Just like a baby absorbs their parent, I have absorbed HFA. So I think my thanks are to all of you and all that you do, and I will miss you all dearly. I got through it.
All right, we are now going to begin our luncheon program with the wonderful speakers that we have joining us today. So this is our Big Three in Home Visiting Lecture Series. It's generously sponsored by the Verizon Foundation. The Big Three meaning the big challenges of substance use, intimate partner violence, and mental health. The New York City-based Verizon Foundation is committed to venture philanthropy, which it defines as investing in the development of capacity infrastructure to create new leadership models for the communities it serves. The foundation invests in more than 12,000 nonprofit organizations a year based on strategic partnerships and innovative technology programs. And its partners include organizations that support education and literacy, health and human services, and community technology development. In addition, the foundation promotes partnerships and technology with organizations serving the needs of diverse communities, people with disabilities, and the economically and socially disadvantaged. Joining us today, Dr. Pradeep Gidwani, a pediatrician and community health leader. He is currently the medical director at the American Academy of Pediatrics California chapter for San Diego and Imperial counties, providing county-wide coordination and support of healthy development services and HFA services through First Five San Diego's First Steps Family Support Program. Dr. Gidwani serves on numerous community advisory boards and is a tenured member of HFA's National Advisory Committee. He teaches in the Department of Child and Family Development at San Diego State University, is a Child Trauma Academy Fellow. Dr. Gidwani completed a Pediatric Health Services Research Fellowship at Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston and earned a master's degree in public health at the Harvard School of Public Health. He completed his residency at Children's Hospital Medical Center in Cincinnati and received his Doctor of Medicine degree from George Washington University in Washington, D.C. Dr. Gidwani will speak to us today about restoring nurture. And following his keynote, he will be joined on stage for a fireside chat with Keene, who is the Director of Programs and Prevention at the National Resource Center for Domestic Violence, and Dr. Carla Worley Saunders, a board-certified neonatal nurse practitioner and dedicated advocate for mothers and babies affected by substance use, and currently the CEO of Transformation Wellness Initiative. And with that, I would like to welcome Dr. Gidwani.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be here, and if we go to the first slide, the first question I want to ask is really who's in the audience? The hard part about being up here is there's a blinding light in my face, but I still can see all of you. So if you are with the Prevent Child Abuse chapters, if you're a chapter representative, could you raise your hand, please? Okay. And for those of you who are with HFA, please raise your hands. Wow, great group. Okay. And some other folks that I know are here are the PCA staff. Can you guys raise your hands? Okay. And then also we have PCA board members. Okay. Did I miss anybody? No, okay. The reason I want to bring this up is this is such an incredible opportunity. When we kicked off this conference, we kicked off a conference about movements. Both Prevent Child Abuse America and HFA are both movements. One is a movement to prevent child abuse, and the other is a family support through home visiting geared towards reducing child abuse. We have an amazing opportunity, and the reason I had you raise your hands is because one of the goals at this conference is to make sure that those of us who are in the HFA side of the family make sure that we know the people in the Prevent Child Abuse America family, because together we can work together and we can get great synergies. We have an incredible national office, an incredible new CEO, president, and we have an incredible board. I had the opportunity to meet the board as a representative for the National Advisory Committee at HFA, and they are so committed to this kind of work. So with that, could I get the next slide, please? The next one after that? Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be doing this. Thanks, Newt. Newt in the back's helping me out. We actually have something planned earlier. So again, if you look at these two movements that we have, PCA are the what, and one of the ways that we do it is through HFA. And I think this is so important that we align our goals, because I really do feel this next decade that we're going into is going to be a decade of incredible change in really preventing child abuse and treating those individuals who have had experienced that. Again, we're in a very unique position, and it's a very exciting time. So you guys might wonder why a guy with a score of 0 on the ACEs is up here talking to you. Well, it actually started this early. I was 5 years old when I went back to India for the first time. And when I went back, I actually saw a child and his father who lived on the street and were begging. And having grown up in a nice suburban environment, I had never seen this before. And ever since that time, I've really been wondering, why is there social equity? What can we do to make a change? Through my journey, I've had the opportunity to work at places like the National Commission to Prevent Infant Mortality, and that's where I got to learn about the models of home visiting. And to me, that is the greatest way to make a change, is through family support through home visiting. In fact, I stopped calling it home visiting because really what we're doing is supporting families. I joke, the plumber comes to visit my house, all of you go visit families in their homes. So in the time that I have, I really want to quickly go through understanding why making change is so hard, staying focused on our why, and the importance of having an approach. And one of the things I love so much about HFA is the approach that we take. So what I would say, our approach is we use our ACEs to prevent and treat the ACEs. Our ACEs are an approach. If you look at this approach, we are relationship-based. That is one of the greatest things about being in this room. And when people say that this is a family, it is that, because I know that I'm connected with all of you with a common purpose and common values. We're relationship-based. We work with parents. We build on family strengths. We develop skills, and we focus on the parent-child interaction. Everything we do is to enhance that interaction between parents and their children. And the great part is everything we do, we promote nurture. Also, we do coordinations at the systems level and at the family level. One of the most amazing things was at the pre-conference for HFA, we learned about the trends that were happening around the country, and my team said, those are the same trends that are happening in our community. There's something amazing about the level of work that we're doing at a national level, and also because HFA has so much flexibility, the ability to learn from communities is tremendous. And you're going to hear that, and I know that you've already started to see that in breakout sessions. The other part is excellence in service delivery. Everything we do is based on how we deliver these services in the home. And one of the pieces that I'm so impressed about is the quality assurance aspect of our work. All of the steps that are required to retain the model fidelity take so much work on your part, but that's actually what ensures what we do works so well. The person who runs our program in San Diego, Kim Thomas, is a colleague and a friend of mine, and she's done 5 peer reviews, and she came back, and I asked her, I go, how does it go when you go out there? And she looked at me and she said, Pradeep, the model works. It's very flexible, but it works. It works everywhere that I've been. And again, yesterday, when we did have the HFA pre-conference, I'm sorry, that's 2 days ago, I'm losing time. One of the things that was so interesting was that large group of individuals who do peer review. This is another one of those strengths in our system and the excellence in our work. Oops, and I'm sorry, I left out. We support providers and families. And usually I always put support families first, but the reason I put support providers first is because you can't give what you don't have. One of the most amazing pieces of our process is our supervision includes not only administrative and clinical supervision, but reflective supervision. And that reflective supervision makes such a huge impact for all of us. So very quickly, I want to just point out one of the things that we do so well is when I started my journey, I became a doctor because I wanted to be an expert and I wanted to help people. And I had the enthusiasm. Hi, I'm here to help you. I have so much information to share with you. I have a treatment that will help you. And you can see the exclamation points. Nobody will ever accuse me of not being enthusiastic. But the problem is people can only go from where they're ready. And so what I learned is really this process of being in service. And when we think about being in service, Mahatma Gandhi said the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And being in service means being in service to somebody is to a person, a group, a community, a cause or belief, means you've chosen to engage without any expectation of reciprocation. That's what you all do every day. Being of service requires you to be aligned with your values. That's why the HFA values are so important, and that's why we meet families at their values. And we've moved from what can I do to help you and what do you need to what do you need and how can I help you? And that's a piece of being with families. And that's something that this program does so beautifully, is to be with families. And we always have to wonder where our families are coming from. They want to know, are you safe? Physically, emotionally, mentally, and relationship-wise. Can you see me? Do you understand me? Can you help me? Are you useful? Will you be around for the long run and when things get tough? And I think all of us have worked with families and they say, yeah, I've heard that before. So there's that piece of time that it takes to prove to them that we're going to be there for them. So my why is nurture. I've been talking about childhood trauma a lot. And I realized one day that's not why I got into this work. I got into this work to work on nurture and to enhance nurture. And the beautiful part about it is you have to work on trauma to restore that characteristic of nurture. And nurture is simply to care for and to encourage the growth and development of. For me, it's children. For my wife, it's not only children, it's pets and plants. I literally have a brown thumb, so when she goes out of town, I usually kill a lot of her plants. We work to make sure that parents and caregivers are available, attuned, and interested. And really, nurture is love in action. Nurture builds better brains, healthy attachment, social emotional intelligence, co-regulation, self-regulation, and resilience. And it's inborn. It's truly inborn. And if we think about our worlds, we are the embodiment of our thoughts, our emotions, and our sensations. This is happening inside us all the time. And what happens for us when we're working with clients and when parents are with their children, it's the inner world of two. But the inner world of a baby doesn't have thoughts. This is why making sure that we work with parents, and my ideal would be actually taking our program and going to what I would call a -1 year initiative, which is a women's health initiative. Because if women are healthy, the year before they conceive, not just in their pregnancy, but the year before they conceive, that's where it makes the biggest difference. And one of my favorite papers is by Paul Wise and Steve Gortmacher. They wrote this paper that really changed the way that I viewed the world and thinking about that. So as far as we're going to come with our work, we're going to go even further and get into this -1 year initiative at some point. But let me look at this and just show you again. This slide might be a little bit hard to see, but again, you see that babies don't have those thoughts. So really what ends up happening is nurture can get disrupted. I've had the great privilege of learning so much from Bruce Perry, and if those of you who know his work, I know you know how wonderful it is, and for those of you who haven't, just look him up. He's got amazing stuff on YouTube. And one of the things that I really learned from him, and he might not be the person who originated this, but this is who I learned it from, is when you see something going wrong with somebody, it's not what's wrong with them, it's what happened in their development that's still affecting them today. And we've infused that into this program all the way through, and it's so amazing to see how you do that work on a day-to-day basis. It's similar with nurture. If a mom can't nurture, there's something that's disrupted that. So that's why I come to that idea of restoring nurture. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these statistics. I am so grateful that Verizon has been such a supporter. I got a chance to see Victor Riveras at the Prevent Child Abuse conference in Cincinnati. We just had him come out for our conference in San Diego. He's a Verizon speaker who speaks about domestic violence from the lens of his own experience. He's a very powerful speaker. Again, if you haven't seen him, take a look for him on YouTube. But you can see these statistics where close to 18% of kids are exposed to physical interpersonal violence, 25% exposed to family violence, 1 in 5 live in a household with parents with mental health issues. Substance abuse is a mental health issue. 1 in 10 children live in a home with somebody who has a problem with alcohol, and about 1 in 8 children live in a home where a parent has substance abuse. And very briefly, I could do an entire lecture for probably a full day talking about this piece, the impact on children. But very quickly, children can be impacted both emotionally, behaviorally, socially. They can have poor academic function. There's parent deficits of less warmth, less responsiveness. Physical and verbal engagement is less and harsh. And there can be also over-involved interactions, very controlling. And the child is always at greater risk for maltreatment and less secure attachment patterns. Again, I could talk a whole day about attachment. But the root cause of all of this is pain. And I think this is the important part, and I'm sharing a couple of quotes by Gabor Mate. He's an addiction specialist up in Vancouver, and he says, the question's not what is the addiction or why the addiction, but what is the pain? The attempt to escape pain is what creates more pain. And keeping that in mind, we need to look and see why that pain persists so strongly. And it's the paradox of pain and trauma. The human mind is wired to survive, adapt, and move forward. To move past pain and trauma, a person creates an adaptive, or sometimes, quite often, a maladaptive mechanism to get on with their lives. Why would they want to disrupt it? The course I teach at San Diego State is a trauma counseling course, and the one piece of advice that I give all the time is, think about that. I have a mechanism that helped me move forward, and it helped me move forward from something terrible. Why would I want to look back at it? So anybody who's coming in and seeking counseling has such a degree of courage to be able to look at that and face that. And the truth of the matter is what can we do in the face of suffering? And I have a quote from Brené Brown, who's someone who I really enjoy listening to in whatever format, audio, reading, video. And she says, empathy has no script. There's no right way or wrong way to do it. It's simply listening, holding space, withholding judgment, emotionally connecting, communicating that incredibly important message of you're not alone. What I would add to that is we also convey a really important message in the work that we do, and that message is you matter. Staying open in the time of strong emotions is something that I think we all need to work on as a program. I know often with our home visiting staff, our family support specialists, they do shy away from those strong emotions. And I don't think they shy away from it for any other reason, but we need to keep building that skill. There's so many things we do well in HFA, and looking at emotions and how helping parents work with their emotions is a very key piece. So again, with strong emotions, it's what is being expressed, what is the emotion being expressed, what's behind it, what's under it. Is there a fear? Is there a belief? Is there an experience? What's behind an action? What's behind a story or a reaction? I love to listen to people's stories because people's stories reveal what's going on behind their eyes. And language is a behavior. Behavior is a language. And that is something that we have to teach parents is what is your child's behavior saying, particularly before they have words. And in HFA, we have problem talk, we have explore and wonder, we have feel, which is feel, emphasize, explore, and listen. The other piece is because of my interests, I have searched through all kinds of spiritual traditions and different teachings. One of the great teachings that I have used and has helped me move through some of the work that I've done is being a brokenhearted warrior. I actually like to add the idea of being a brokenhearted mother because I think if we look in the audience, there are far more women in the audience than men. But the idea is that we go through the world brokenhearted because we know there is pain and suffering. And people need that open heart to heal. I had the great privilege of spending about 10 years with Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 4 Agreements in the Mastery of Love. And he always said, the only way to heal a broken heart is to love more. You must put all of your love in your own heart. It'll heal, and your ability to grow, your ability to love will grow. When I talked with him recently and I said, hey, Miguel, I'm going to share this talk, your quote, he said, oh, can you tell everybody in the audience I love them? So compassion is really the other piece of what we can do. And compassion is to feel with. And that's the important part. We really have to feel with folks. And this is just a very simple piece. You can do it as a prayer. You can do it as a meditation. Try this out. Try out saying, may I be held in compassion. May my pain and sorrow be eased, and may I be at peace. May I meet this suffering with tenderness and love. You have to do it for yourselves before you can do it for others. We cannot give what we do not have. So restoring nurture. Restoring nurture can only be restored in the context of respectful, reliable, responsive, and regulating relationships. For those of you who are in the HFA program, that's what we do, right? That is the core of what we do. Through reflection, an individual can examine his or her representation of the world, how they see the world, and change their reality. Reflection can only happen when we feel safe and we have internal space. If you get nothing else out of this talk over lunch, the one thing I want you to know is one of the reasons people struggle to make change is because they don't have inner space. They don't have room for their thoughts, their emotions, and their sensations to move in a way that they can see and change it. That's critical to our work, is to help parents feel that ability to have inner space. And we do that by acknowledging their strong emotions and their pain. We acknowledge their feelings and their experience. We create space for resolution. When we care, we can repair. We can transform pain into power, and we can instill hope. There's a great body of work that's emerging right now that looks at post-traumatic growth. We shouldn't make trauma something that becomes a handicap. We should really have it as a vehicle for growth and inspiration. There's so much great artwork that has come from the pain being resolved. We probably would not have nearly the degree of art that we would have without trauma. Not that I'm pro-trauma. And instilling hope. So there's 2 sides to this effort that we need to do. We need to reduce and resolve pain, but we also have to increase positive capacities and experiences. And really quickly, I just want to tell you a quick story. After seeing thousands and thousands of patients, being very busy as a resident, working at one of the busiest programs in the country, I'd seen so many mothers and babies. I'd seen so many fathers and babies. And one day when I was working in urgent care, 7 hours into an 8-hour shift on a Friday after working a 40-hour week at my job, I walked into the room and I saw this mom. And she had a 2.5-year-old. And I swear to you, I could see a bubble of love around her and around her child. And it was a shift moment, because now I see that every time I go anywhere. I see that with fathers and their children. I see it with mothers and their children. And so what I really want us to consider is, can we love our families with the same power that mothers love their children? I love all of the work we do with fathers, but if we really look collectively at the amount of what mothers will do for their children, it is just amazing and heroic, and we take it for granted as a society. We need to elevate that piece of what a mother's love can do. So clearly I'm not an artist. I can talk to 1,000 people, but I am really bad at drawing pictures, and I don't know that smart art is so smart. But here was my attempt to share with you what I saw. Again, you see the thoughts, sensations, and emotion of a mother with the thoughts and emotions and sensations of that little 2.5-year-old, and you see how the baby's heart and her love is completely surrounded by her mother. So I say, don't be afraid to love. And I have a great job right now. About 7 years ago, I realized I had 2 folks on my staff that were emerging leaders, and I thought, well, I really don't want to lose them, and if I stay in a leadership role, I'm going to get in the way of their growth. So I took a sideways position, and one of those individuals, Kim Thomas, is in the room. The other, Lily Velmediano, is back making sure my Healthy Development Services project keeps working. And they have allowed me to have a different role. So I do a lot of stuff in the community. I do a lot of teaching. I do a lot of connecting with people, looking for our next round of growth and how we can help kids and families. But they've done such a great job that now I go out to the different programs, and because I have this position in the community, all of our organizations get excited when I come out, and all of the lead organizations tell me, oh, our staff gets so excited when you come out. And it's because of your position, it's because of that. And no, it's not. They're making it more complicated. I go out, and I just feel such great love for our staff. And, we talk a lot about the parallel process in HFA, and the fact that I can convey that love to the teams. I like to think that that gives them a little bit more love to give the parents, that gives a little bit more love to the kids. And I learned it from my mom. My mom's a doctor, and she had this thing where I would meet people in the community, they're like, are you Dr. Gidwani's son? And the answer was yes, of course I was. And they had an almost kind of religious fervor about telling me how great my mom was. Now, the funny part about the story is my dad, being such a great support to her and being a very intelligent man, said to me, you know, son, you may want to consider telling them how she is as a mother. I said, yeah, I'll do that, Dad. Well, many years later, I realized how intelligent my father was. My mom was a surgeon at the time, very accomplished, had a very, big position, and she got so much criticism because she must have put her career before her kids. And my dad knew that the best antidote for that was when people were complimenting us about our mom, that we would compliment her as a mother. And she was a great mother. But he was so smart to think about, how do you get that message across that you can be great at work and a great parent? As much as my mom loved her clients, she had great boundaries. We never had them over for dinner. So what I'm going to leave you with is a few ideas as we go. I'm going to check my time. 10 minutes, ugh. Last night I had 120 slides. I got it down to 50. Trying to get to 30. So I want you to approach things as you do, like be the sunshine, support, understand, and be non-judgmental, but be a rock for families. Act with respect, openness, vulnerability, and humility, caring and compassion and kindness. But this is this piece about establishing safety. That small, tiny piece in red is what a lot of our families feel like. They feel judged. They feel like nobody is there for them. We start conveying that sense of caring and that sense of worthiness to them. That circle gets bigger. We add stability, support, and time. The color of their mood, their inner world changes. And as trust develops, their inner world truly shifts. Our work is heart to heart. And our hearts are a combination of our brains, our body, and our emotions. And you see how that all works together. And certainly our physical state of being tired, sleepy, hungry, and thirsty affects that. But if you can see, by focusing on parents' strengths and helping them build the skills, we grow their inner space. And with that inner space and safety, they start to reflect. This is what their world likes that's what a person's world looks like when they're under threat. We cannot think big and expansive. We can only think about how am I going to survive. With reflection, a parent's worldview can change, and that's the worldview that they give their children. In HFA, we use Explore and Wonder for that. I'm going to skip through trust, and I think we all do this. We meet at common values, and what I really want to focus the rest of the talk on is hope. We can help folks focus on optimism, hope, and extending joyful interactions. One of my favorite things working with families is to see those joyful moments and have them extend those. That's where that sense of safety in the blue gets added with moving forward in the green. Positive childhood experiences can have a very significant impact. When we look at the ACEs, and I haven't talked about the ACEs because I know we all have heard about them, but what helps people move through the ACEs? Some researchers took a look, and for people with ACEs scores of 4+, two things that really jumped out were feeling your family stood by you in hard times and having someone talk to you, having someone to talk with about difficult feelings. We do that. Two of those individuals on that study are actually sitting up here on the front tables, Bob Segi and our own Bart Klicka. These are two folks that are helping us understand how important hope is. And Bob had a recent paper that just came out last week. So hope, my future can be better than right now. Trauma looks backwards, hope looks forward. Help parents imagine a better future for themselves and for their children. Sometimes all you have to do is say, do this for your children later. Our families respond to that. They need a sense of agency, they need willpower, but they also need a way to get there. Way power are required. So much of our goal planning and so much of the work we do gets us there. Setting and meeting goals can create hope. And the important part is, if nobody's ever done that with you before, sometimes your goals are too big. We need to right-size those goals. And I know many of you are doing innovation projects around goal planning. We need to learn from you what is working, because this is what instills hope. And what we really want to be in the business is of creating more dreams than memories, because that moves us forward. Resiliency needs hope. Resiliency is the ability to recover, and we can talk about the construct and is it a good construct. There's a lot of talk about that right now. But resiliency is also developed in the context of reliable, responsive, regulating relationships. Resiliency doesn't happen on its own. It happens because of relationships, the relationships that support you and help you. Resiliency is reaching in and reaching out to the resources that you have. Resiliency gets you back to where you were, but it's hope that moves you beyond where you were. That's why hope is so important. And Chan Hellman, who's the director of the Hope Research Center at the University of Oklahoma, shares this quote, "Hope is the mindset that drives resilient behavior." So simple practices. I want you to walk away with just a few simple practices. Link parents' work to their values and their dreams. Ask, where did you see hope today? Not only with the families, but at the beginning of team meetings. As I mentioned, our family goal planning is very important. And remember, for all of us who work in this field, hope decreases both our burnout and our turnover. I'm going to skip to, let me see, I think I'm going to go to, can I go to 57, please? So I just want to finish up with a quote. I know this is being live streamed, and I'm actually hoping my wife's not watching this because I didn't get sanctioned for the story, all of it, part of it. So I got married late in life, 2 years into my marriage. my 12-year-old at that time started having very serious mental health issues, so much so that we had to hospitalize him 4 times, institutionalize him once. It was really a tough time. That went on for about 3 years. The great news is he's doing great now. Part of it is my wife and I have coffee every morning to connect because we both have busy lives. And somewhere through all of this, I asked her. I don't know if I asked her. I think one morning she woke up and she said, you know, one thing they don't tell you as a mother is you have to love greater than your child's pain. And it hurts bad when your 4-year-old skins their knee. And her heart was broken so many times during this process, but she kept on coming back and loving more and more. The clinician in me says, he couldn't heal. It looked like hallucinations, things that I was thinking, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to keep him safe for the rest of his life? But I truly believe her love healed him. And so I took that lesson, and I bring that lesson to you for the reason to say, can we love more than our children's and families' pain? That's what I do. That's what I want. And so I'm here in this journey with all of you, and I want to create and to increase the love, the compassion, and the hope in our world. And I know all of you are the love, compassion, and hope the world needs. And I'm grateful to be on this journey with you. We have a long way to go. We've come a long way. There's 1,000 people in this room, and you're all connected to how many people back home? These are all people that are trying to make our world better. You are doing this. You are already doing this. Let's get rooted in this. And let's influence policies, politicians. Let's do administrative advocacy. Let's influence payers. I'm tired of people saying how much they're willing to pay for a home visit. I'm tired of hearing that. I think we all need to start demanding more. I also have the idea for a TV show, so if anybody knows anybody at the OWN network, let me know. The idea would be a Healthy Families America supervisor in her life. It would be something very counter to the narrative that we have today. Today, shows look to add drama. Our drama would be about how do you reduce drama. My friend who's in television tells me I'm crazy. He's worked on the Lopez show. He's done a lot of TV. He's told me you're crazy, and I'm okay with that. So let's agree on what works. As I said, let's influence those folks, and let's look for universal home visiting. I fell into my own trap, everybody. I fell into my own trap. We need universal family support through home visiting. And we need a continuum of services. We need the services that are for the family that's doing great. We need services for the family that's really struggling. We need family support specialists that are generalists. We need family support specialists that are mental health professionals. There's a certain point where our families actually need wraparound services. That's what we need. That's what we need to ask for. That's what we need to do collectively. We are a movement. We're a movement of 2 movements. Movements often start out as programs. Programs get replicated. When those programs get replicated, they spread, but then they become a way of doing business. This is what we're doing. We are at a different point. We have reached one plateau, and let's get ready to climb up to that next level together as a family. And with that, I'm going to ask my colleagues to come up to join me for a fireside chat. So thank you. Oh, you guys come up this way. Okay, I'll go this way. I've always wanted to have a TV show, a talk show. So Bart said, oh, we can do that for you. Hi, Casey.
Hey, that
Hi,
was
Carla.
beautiful.
So very quickly, You both have great experience. Carla, you've worked a lot with opioid-addicted babies. Carla, you've done a lot of work around treating those kids in the NICU. And Casey, you've done a lot of work with interpersonal violence. So when you think about interpersonal violence and where are we in terms of being a movement? What can we do? What can our folks do?
Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm honored to share the stage with you and with you, Carla. This is amazing, and thanks for being so welcoming. This is such a welcoming space, and I'm so impressed with the work that you all do and your commitment to healthy families and communities. And I think that, when Pradeep and I were talking before the conference, I made a point about the fact that when we think about domestic violence work, we describe it as a social justice movement.
Yes.
And we don't necessarily see ourselves as a social service field as much as we see ourselves as a collective movement for social change. And so I'm really appreciating the point that you're making, Pradeep, about the movements aligning, because that's where my interest is, and that's what kind of brings me here to this space, is wanting to find those points of alignment, to realize that there are so many movements like ours that are really looking to the same horizon. Like, we are working toward the same goals. We want to see the same types of change. We want families to be thriving and healthy and resilient and strong. And so that's where I'm seeing us kind of moving in this work together. And that if we continue to do this work in a siloed way, we can't get there. That we need this collective strength that we all bring and the collective understanding to be able to move, to make change happen.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Carla, with the families that you serve, what has helped them create inner space?
I think one of the things that you really talked about and hit home for my journey was being in a space of being really fortunate and having to switch my mindset. So learning about compassion, which meant you had to listen. And I think listening is the biggest factor that's made a difference in the approach that I've taken with families and in the results I've seen. Infants going home from the NICU with their moms, even in some who had to give their children up for a time period but were able to get them back.
Oh, we're getting a little bit of feedback. Okay. You got a great team in the back. Thank you. So, Carla, can you also expand? Can you share with them what you saw in your career and how things changed in your practice? Because it was a change that happened so fast, and what ended up happening to bring people together.
Yeah, so in 2008 and 9, we had a slight increase in the number of babies that were being born who were withdrawing from maternal opioids, and about 24 and then around 40 the next year. And by June of 2010, we had already admitted 48 infants who were withdrawing, and pretty significantly so at that time. And it was really impacting our NICU. We were running out of beds, and our staff was really stressed. And so there, I was met one day walking into work in a hurry, and there's a nurse coming down the hall, and she's only been there an hour. She's got hair is all a mess. She's in tears, a sweat, a baby's screaming, and I'm trying to dodge her. And she just stops me and looks me straight in the eye, and she said, "Somebody has to do something." And I just stopped. And I thought, because I'd been running from these kids. None of us in the NICU, we didn't learn anything about this. I didn't know what to do. The parents were difficult. The situations were difficult. There's no standardized care. So the practitioners always just kind of had the physicians deal with those families. And so we I took a deep breath and realized she was counting on me to do something to really kind of standardize any aspect of what we were doing. And so we had some other quality improvement projects, and I gathered that team together and a leadership team from that, which was very multidisciplinary. And we started to look at it, and we started to tear it down, found out, well, we have no framework. We're going to have to create our own. And so we, all hands on deck, I called it building a life raft while drowning. There was no time for debate and argument. Every person in their subspecialty went out and did their research and brought back to the table what they could find as evidence. And we told our nurses to write the protocol. You know what works. You're with them every day. And so we learned a lot about team building from that. We learned a lot about really putting what the magic of what can happen when you're working towards a common goal. And that's really all that matters, is the greater good. And we no sooner started working through that, and we had people coming from the community. They would hear we were doing this work, and we had all aspects, from legislators to pediatricians to office managers to the Department of Health, asking to be part of our movement in working with these kids. And so we then were able to expand outside the NICU into the community.
And it sounds like the nurses were very impacted by the families and the patients and yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a very difficult thing. I mean, we always joke, and we go into the NICU because our patients are really little and they can't talk and argue with you, and people say, "Oh, wow," and yeah, there's that "oh, wow" part of it, but really, truth be told, we're also there for a whole other reason. We don't want to deal with all that piece of it. So when it came into our nursery in a massive way, and we were dealt with, and people who were angry with us instead of people who were appreciating that we were keeping their babies alive, it was really hard to deal with. And so we had to do a lot of education. We had to learn about addiction. We had to learn about trauma. We had to educate, bring that in for our nurses. I mean, it was a long, long haul, but we did it. And it's amazing to look back and see how we were able to move through that process, but it was one step at a time.
And Casey, with working with interpersonal violence, I know some of the work that you do is working with folks that are in the field who are impacted by the secondary trauma around the work that you do.
Yeah.
What are some of the ways and techniques that we can bring to helping support our family support specialists and our supervisors when they hear about some of these very difficult situations?
Yeah, it actually reminds me of a point you made during your presentation when you were talking about, very early, you talked about the shifting from the realization that you wanted to help people to that you wanted to serve people, right? And I think that that's sort of a really core principle to the work that we do. And it reminds me of the fact that if we see ourselves as distinctly different from the people that we serve, then we do them an injustice. Because the fact of the matter is that we are all common in our experiences of trauma. And so I don't know if this maybe is a roundabout way of answering your question, but I think that, acknowledging that the trauma that we've experienced in our lives is a part of who we are, and a really valuable part of who we are, and, from a growth aspect, it really brings to us strength and understanding and skills in order to do this work. And so, yes, you're right, vicarious trauma is a challenging issue and something we need to be very mindful of, but I think part of the reason that it's so important is because our experiences of vicarious trauma bring up those experiences of our own adverse childhood experiences, right? And so acknowledging our trauma histories and how they're relevant to the families that we work with, I think is really important. And acknowledging that the families that we work with, their experiences are not different from ours. They're just in a different place, maybe in the journey.
And the whole emphasis on growth and using all of those experiences for growth is part of the work that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect of the work that you do is really helping people clarify and meet their own values, because this work is hard if you're not connected to your values.
Yes.
And so I know in your breakout session,
Yeah.
you are going to be doing some work around values and what you can do with teams to
Yeah.
build that common frame for the values.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was I going to say? The point just came right in my head and then went right back out. But I think, here it is. I think the thing that's really important in kind of acknowledging that part of our own experience is realizing that I think one of the most powerful things we can do for the families that we work with is to model the practices that we want them to embrace, right? So if we can model sort of what the path to resilience looks like, the path to healing, the path to resilience, the path to growth, what it looks like, then that's giving families the tools to also be on that path. So yeah, I will be talking more about that and kind of what that looks like later in my workshop this afternoon, if you want to come hang out with me.
Excellent, thank you, thank you. And Carla, we talked a little bit about there's a lot of work that you've done around instilling hope for families. Could you talk a little bit about some of the aspects of what you saw in the power of hope?
Yeah, so one particular experience that was one of my aha moments and really kind of transformational for me was working with these families every day and kind of getting in this pattern of coming in to talk to them and defenses being up immediately, and just knowing how this conversation is going to go. And I had one mom that I was talking to one day, and she was really immediately defensive, and I just looked at her and I said, hey, I'm not here to judge. Like, I can't even imagine what you've been through. I'm here to help your baby. I'm here to help you in any way I can. And she looked at me and she said, I can't tell you how much that means. And so she started telling me her story, and she said, and she was crying. I wasn't always like this. And she looked probably twice her age. She was missing some teeth, dreadfully skinny, and malnourished looking. And she said, I have a 15-year-old who I did not have a problem when I had him. And I had a C-section, and I had been given pain medication. And she said, I don't know why, but she said I couldn't stop taking it. And that led to heroin use. Long story in between, but led to heroin use. And she said, my 15-year-old has had to watch me go through this. And that was devastating to her. But a piece of that is he's also watched her get help. And so she was in a state of recovery and was doing fairly well, and she fell off the wagon, and she started using again. In order to get her medication or her drugs, she traded sex for drugs. She got pregnant, and here was this child. And so the immense guilt that she had. And so this woman instilled this story to me, and I felt so trusted to have that. And she was so worried the baby would seize, and I told her I didn't think we were there. I thought we were out of that danger zone. She left, and I turned and looked at the baby, and it was seizing. And so I had to run down the hall after her and tell her, and she came back, and that mom every day either sent or brought breast milk for that baby every day. And she was back in a group home type situation that we have in the area that was a great program. And the judge wanted her to be a year without any medication before she could have her baby back. He's a really tough judge in our area. And I thought, you just took her hope away. You just took her motivation away. Like, I get it, but then you took her hope away. You know, put resources in the home, send help, wrap around her, empower her with compassion and belief. And so when the baby was getting ready to discharge for 2 days before the baby went home, I was able to let her room in with that baby, so she had concentrated time with that baby. And a year later, I was heading to an event, and it was a screening for a documentary that they had done at our hospital, and I was late, and I heard somebody yelling my name, and I looked, and it was this woman, and she was running down the hall, and she had tears running down her face, and she said, I just want to tell you that in 1 week, I get my baby back. And she said, I could have never done it without your support. And I didn't see her in between that time, but she said, you'll never know how much that meant to me.
And the power of the question of what's going on with you and what do you want for your baby, meeting at those values really becomes such an important piece. And I think that's another aspect of the work that we still have ahead of us, is what you just shared about this mom didn't need punishment, she needed love and support. And we actually need to work with the legal system. We need them to understand that when we take a child away, we're actually creating damage. And while this mother may have had things that were getting in her way of nurturing, you were on the path of helping her restore that ability to nurture. And in doing that, when she can nurture a child, she nurtures herself. And so that's another important part, that you might not have a great attachment, but if you can give it, you get it. And so, like you said, we just need to wrap around those families and really help them. With interpersonal violence, how do you help people in that same context?
Well, so that story is a beautiful story, and it really reminds me about the fact that, with mothers or non-abusive parents who are experiencing domestic violence and trying to parent within the context of domestic violence, right, it's a challenging and complex situation. And moms or parents who are being abused will cite their children as the number one reason that they stay in an abusive relationship, and also will cite their children as the number one reason that they will leave an abusive relationship. It's a complicated situation. In some cases, parents navigating domestic violence, at least there's some predictability or a pattern that they can rely on, and stability for their children in the home that will keep them there. At the same time, the fear about the impact on their children, right, is enough for them to help them turn that corner. And so this drive that protective parents have around making choices based on what's best for their children is something we really need to look at. We really need to look at sort of how to honor the protective strategies that parents navigating domestic violence employ every single day. And there is research on that, and I will be sharing that later on this afternoon. But I think that, just acknowledging that parenting's hard when you're not navigating violence. And so, when you're navigating violence on top of that, it's having an appreciation for what that's like, living in the context of domestic violence and trauma every single day.
Absolutely, and the idea that just do this and here's the strategy and it'll all work is really this kind of very simple approach to a complex issue. And you raise some of the complexity that being in a situation like that, you're not able to move forward in the same way because of all of the other factors. And again, the idea of approaching a greater degree, their complex solutions are required for complex problems. And human beings are inherently complex.
Yeah.
With the opioid explosion, you had to reach out from beyond the NICU to the entire community. What were some of the factors and some of the pieces? You said folks came in for that help, but I'm sure they came in with their own agendas.
I think it's the one thing that I have seen that has really brought a commonality across sectors.
Right.
And I think having really experienced this from the heart of the epidemic in Appalachia, and really seeing the devastation. And then you speak of parenting in the face of violence, and add to you have a substance use disorder, and you're postpartum, and hormones kick in, and you have a baby who's not capable of interacting developmentally appropriately. You have a mom who's not really capable of interacting, and you really have a setup for some terrible situations, and we saw that happening in our area. But one of the things that I think I've been really fortunate enough to have experienced is people cross-sectorally who are really, really motivated. We have a judge in our area, Judge Dwayne Sloan, who just won the national, I think it's Albright Award for judges. It's the biggest award you can get. It's like the Oscar for best actor in the judicial world. But he's been instrumental in starting some, not just programs, but movement in the judicial world. And so there is a regional, we have a state, and there's a regional, and there's actually a national judicial opioid initiative, which is looking at that intersection between healthcare and the criminal justice system, so it can be an intersection point for getting people help. And so that is a really promising piece to me. And so I've seen that people really are interested, and this is the one thing. I think if anybody's been to the National Prescription Drug Abuse Summit, that's a great example of the cross-sectoral work is everybody that is coming together and saying, we can't do this alone. Like, you can't arrest your way out of this. We can't medicate our way out of this, right? We have to all come together and then really work across our sectors. And that's the places that I've been, the stories that I've heard, the things that I've seen, where it's working really beautifully is where you have a community who gets together and basically does that same thing, a multidisciplinary approach. Somebody says, hey, I'm going to hold a meeting. And I just tell people, if you build it, they will come. I promise. And you get representation, and you just start really organically at that very community level and start building that network. And a huge piece of it is dealing with trauma, violence, and then getting into the home and providing that support.
So again, it's that idea of meeting at the values and the values that bring folks together. We just have a couple more minutes left, and so just any closing thoughts that you would have for Casey and Carla?
I really believe that that our hope makes waves and generates other people's hope, and that's the tidal wave we need to really make together. The new research on hope, kind of the science of hope and being able to measure hope, there's such a thing as a hope score. Knowing your hope score while also knowing your ACE score, right? How can that kind of be transformative? So I think that if we can just understand that we don't have a full picture unless we're looking at both sides of that coin at the same time, then that's how we really need to approach this work.
Did you get the slide that I deleted last night? Because I was on it.
Was it on it?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, hope rising, right?
That was great. Thank you. Carla, do you have any other closing thoughts you'd like to share?
I just really echo that same concept, which is, I think moving through it, I saw we got into this place through pain as the fifth vital sign. And in my doctoral program, I did work on risk assessment as the sixth vital sign. And since then, I've kind of developed that a little bit further, and it's become risk and resiliency assessment as the first vital sign.
Awesome.
And we have to look at that first. We have to look at the total human first and work from there, because it's all interconnected. And we're going to talk about some of the, you're talking about hope building hope, and the scientific part of that, of course, is the neuroplasticity, right? The more compassion we give, the more hope we give, the more we build within ourselves, and we generate that for ourselves. So I think it's a little piece of what we're going to do.
Thank you. So please join me in a round of applause for my colleagues. They have breakout sessions coming up. Casey, yours is first, and then Carla's is first, and then Casey's, and then mine will be tomorrow morning. So again, thank you for your attention. We really appreciate all the work that everybody in this room does. And again, this is a movement of many movements coming together to really transform our community in a deep and meaningful way. So we'd like to say thank you to all of you for the work that you do. So thank you.
All right, and so yes, a special thank you to Pradeep and Casey and Carla. So much appreciated, and a message we really need to embrace. And before we send you on your way for a wonderful and enlightening afternoon, can't resist the opportunity to announce who is the recipient of the $20 Starbucks gift card. And it is Dan Mills. So if you can come up here, we will provide that to you. All right, and so that closes out our luncheon program. We thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.